Welcome to Success Is Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Portman, serial entrepreneur, author, and podcast host. Whether success for you is more money, time with your family, a healthy, well-balanced life, or freedom, I'm interviewing guests and getting you the advice to make it happen. So join me as we uncomplicate the complicated, help you define success, and give you the strategies to make it happen. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Success Is Podcast. I'm your host, Phil Portman. Today, we have the pleasure of diving into the world of finance, investing, and personal development with an extraordinary guest, Whitney Elkins-Hutten. Whitney wears multiple hats, serving as the Director of Investor Education at PassiveInvesting.com and the founder of Ash Wealth. She is also the author of Money for Tomorrow, which was released yesterday. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Her insight into balancing career aspirations, motherhood, and personal fulfillment offer invaluable lessons for anyone striving for success in today's fast-paced world. We'll explore her journey, her perspectives on defining success, and her advice for those looking to build generational wealth. Thank you for joining us today, Whitney.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, let's kick it off with, what does success mean to you?
So success, as I define it in Money for Tomorrow, it really boils down to having 5 freedoms in life. And most people really focus on one freedom, but when you start digging through, it's about 5. That's financial freedom, time freedom, choice freedom, location freedom, and then the ultimate freedom, which is creating an impact in the world.
That's phenomenal. And it really hit me when I was reading your book. I couldn't agree with you more. And something that I constantly try to do in my life is be present. And I feel like when you have those freedoms, you have the ability to be more present. Have you found that in your journey as well?
Yeah, but it's like uncovering the layer of an onion, right? Because, every time you peel back one layer, there's more layers about yourself and about like how you want to organize your life to kind of tackle. And so, that's why so many people on their wealth journey concentrate on finances, because they figure out, if I can like nail the finance piece, then I can get my time back. And then if you do that, then okay, I have my time back, but what do I want to do with my time? Now you're nailing choice. And so yes, it's a yes and, right? Like, it can help you be more focused, but I think it's really when you start getting to the interior layer of that journey, understanding what it is that you were put on this earth to do, that lights you up every day, that doesn't feel like work, that impact you want to create in the world. That's where you have the true focus.
Absolutely. And we're talking about your book, Money for Tomorrow, which I really enjoyed. And the biggest reason I liked it is I think a lot of books get it wrong. I think a lot of books on money management are about safety and protecting your wealth, and not really about growing the wealth, or the type of wealth that really allows you to have those 5 freedoms in life. And your book takes a very different approach. And I personally think it's an approach that can be followed by anybody and lead to a successful life. I would love to hear kind of your backstory on why you wrote the book and how you came about the techniques that you talk about in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, this book is really a culmination of my investing journey over the past, 22 years. And quite frankly, my life, and trying to figure out, like, how do I want to, be successful in the world? How do I want to show up in the world? Now, the reason why I wrote the book, I wrote it for one person. I wrote it for my daughter. As I'm scaling, learning all these lessons, learning all these principles about how money works, how wealth is created. I'm learning the rules of the game on how to protect your wealth, how to grow it, and then also how to pass it on without eroding it. There's so many things that can happen, in the final years that can erode somebody's portfolio. I wanted my daughter to not have to struggle with those things. She's going to make her own mistakes. And, I thought for certain somebody had already written a blueprint on how to do all these things. And that's not the case. So I was like, okay, how can I write a book that's all about those first principles of learning, if wealth is a board game, what is the objective? What are the rules of the game, right? And then also mastering the strategies, how to create the wealth, keep the wealth, grow it, and then pass it on.
Absolutely. And one of the things you talk about early on and you alluded to this a second ago, is writing down your reasons why. Why
Mhm.
do you think that's important to, one, understand your reason, but specifically to write it down?
Yeah, so the reason that you want to write down your why is because the usually the first thing, the reason why you want to generate wealth or the why you want to invest, create, maybe initially it's to add a couple $100s to your monthly income so you can pay off some debt. And then, but why do you want to do that? Well, because you want to have more time freedom in the world, or you want to be able to, not work your desk job for like the next 40 years. Well, why do you want that? Well, maybe you want more time to spend with your kids. Well, why do you want to spend more time with your kids? And the thing is, most people start initially with that first why. They write that down and then they stop. Okay. But you want to dig deeper and find out kind of that bottom why. And that bottom why is going to be more of your North Star, your guiding light. And it's probably attached to one of those 5 freedoms we talked about earlier. You need to know both, because that initial why that you wrote down, that's the pain. That's what is going to keep you motivated. We as human beings are more motivated to get out of pain than we are to seek pleasure. But as you start scaling your investment portfolio or your business portfolio, whatever it is you're going to, use as an investing tool, hopefully diversify those tools. You want to scale those portfolios with that North Star in mind, because otherwise you scale it the wrong way. I know so many investors that start fixing flipping houses and they scale this monstrous company and they wake up 10 years later and they're like, wait a second, I built the wrong company. I need to go back and re-engineer. Right. So we need to know both. What is that pain that's going to keep you motivated on a daily basis, get you out of bed, right? But also, what are you trying to build for the future?
Yeah, right. And it's important that you talk about that North Star, because on your journey, things don't always go the way that you think they are. And you kind of had that too in your real estate journey, where you guys started off with flipping houses, right?
Yeah, I mean, I started off in 2002, living, flipping, and house hacking completely by accident. But it showed me, those first few deals showed me that I could unhook the value I created in the world from how much time that I had to spend to do it. And quite frankly, real estate for me was the right choice because I didn't have to go back to school. I'd already spent years in school. I didn't need another degree after my name. I didn't need that, didn't want that. But I it was really when we learned how to transition and free up our time and build the right real estate business. So we were living, flipping, and house hacking. And when we discovered buy and hold real estate, and then quite frankly, the larger institutional grade real estate, like multifamily, self-storage, express car washes, that's when I really started feeling very aligned with what I should be doing with my life over the course of my life. But it's an evolution and process. I mean, we don't come out of the womb knowing this. So this is a journey. We have to continue. We can't ask ourselves these questions one time and expect we know the answer. It's personal development, like you said at the very beginning. We have to continue and ask ourselves these questions over and over and over again. It's a spiral, if you will. And once somebody finally clued in to me that it's not getting from point A to point B, but rather a spiral, and that you're continuing to make these like 1 to 2% course corrections until you get to the middle. I was like, I can do that. I can figure that out.
So you talk about continued learning and education. I want to talk about that in a second, but in your what you just said, you talked about house hacking. For our audience listening that doesn't know what that is, what do you mean by house hacking?
It's one of my favorite ways for people, especially young people that don't have necessarily a spouse or a family yet, to get involved in real estate. So you can buy a piece of property, maybe it's a single family house or a duplex or a quad, and rent out the other rooms, right? So for me, I had this house. It was in dire need of rehab. I thought it was going to break the bank for me, so I stuffed it full of roommates. I panicked, put a bunch of roommates in there, and they're paying all the bills. And so I am earning the tax benefits on the property. I have the capital preservation with my investment. I'm earning the equity. And then I was earning cash flow because my roommates were helping pay the bills. And on top of that, I was eliminating one of my largest expenses, which was my housing costs. So I wasn't paying for principal, interest, taxes, insurance on the house, and I wasn't paying for the utilities either. My roommates were helping subsidize that. And so that's a really powerful strategy for people starting off in real estate, and they're like trying to figure out, how do I get a roof over my head and get an investment property? Make that first roof over your head your investment property.
Absolutely. Yeah. My brother does the exact same thing, and he's been doing it for years, and he loves it. He's a single guy, and pays his house, allows him to afford a living on a teacher's salary that he wants. So let's talk about your what role do you believe continuing education and learning play in your long-term success? Because you talked a little bit about it, but I'd like you to kind of expand a little bit on that.
Yeah. So, when I think as far as long-term success, I'm constantly asking myself three questions, every, 6 to 12 months. And quite frankly, I wish I learned these questions so much earlier in my investing career. And that is, and it doesn't even have to be related to investing. It can be your actual like day job, like whatever it is you're trying to tackle in life. Like, what do I want? Why do I want it? And then who do I have to become to get it? And so that who do I have to become to get it really leads into personal development. And I'm thinking in terms of my mindset, like, am I, if I'm tackling something around my health or personal relationships, am I in a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? What do I need to change here? How do I need to level up? What type of skills do I need to acquire? Do I have all the skills, my tools in my tool belt, so to speak, to actually take the next step in this evolution to level up in this area? And then who do I need in my world? What do I have the right connections? How can I leverage the current connections that I have? And sometimes you can leverage your connections to bring a who that has the skill into your world to help you level up.
So a lot of that is identifying what you need and then focusing on those specific areas. Do you have any personal habits or routines that you find that contribute to your productivity and success?
Oh man, I have spreadsheets galore, and quite frankly, I drive like everybody else in my family nuts because I have everything on spreadsheets. So, my husband and I, we have a weekly meeting called a life and money meeting, and everything's like on spreadsheet. My husband was like, I don't even bring an agenda anymore because I know she has everything written down. So, but for me, that's just how I think. I also utilize Asana, which can be kind of like a spreadsheet, but you can delegate and monitor things. But I think the big hack is, especially if you have a spouse, and even if you don't have a spouse, have a recurring appointment for yourself. That way you're constantly monitoring what it is you should be doing for the next week or 2 weeks or month in these particular areas of life that you want to focus on. So we break it down for my husband and I. What do we want to do with our health? What do we want to do with our relationships? Okay, how do we want to, and there's our relationship with ourselves, there's the relationship we have with each other, relationship we have with our family, and then also the relationships we have with our family and friends. Okay, what do we need to do with our horizontal income, our passive income? Do we need to reposition assets, acquire a new asset? What do we need to do there? And then what do we need to do with our vertical income, the things that we still, have an active involvement in and are trading time for money? We have several businesses that we manage. And then how do we want to give back? And also the fun part, those adventures that we want to take. What is that one big adventure we want to do together for the year, the big thing that we're working towards? But also how can we, intersperse some little mini adventures throughout the year and stay connected, not only with each other, but also with our family and friends. So
Yeah.
that's probably one of the biggest hacks, is having that regular meeting and having that framework that's structured. That way we're constantly looking at not just the goals and the to-dos, but making sure that we're constantly asking ourselves, are we generating the right emotion here? And I think so many people get attached to the checking the goal off, like, in the case of horizontal income, are we getting closer to that 15K a month or 25 or 35K a month? But it's really, what does that 35K a month give you, that feeling? And that, again, that kind of goes back to that North Star. We're constantly asking ourselves, are we on the right path for the emotion we want to feel?
Yeah, I love the fact that you're looking at things in a balanced perspective, right? So you're considering everything to ensure balance in your life and that you're truly living the life that you want to, instead of focusing on just one really specific area, and then you can end up losing some of those other areas. And then the
Mm.
other thing I really enjoy that you talked about is you bring your kids and your whole family involved with that. And I don't know if you did you have that growing up? Did your parents talk about money and stuff? Right. Mine didn't either. And what I'm guessing you might have found the same thing is when things are in the dark, when they're hidden away, when they're not exposed or talked about, there's typically a problem there, right? Did you experience that similar with your parents growing up?
Well, I mean, I have to give my parents a little bit of grace because they didn't know what they didn't know. And so if you don't have good money skills, if you don't have the good financial education or even the capacity to execute on that, how are you expected to train your kids, train the next generation to have those skills? And so I have to give them grace. And so all I knew by watching my parents, my father, was the CEO, or sorry, a VP, very high up of a oil supply company. I mean, the money should not have been an issue, yet they lived almost paycheck to paycheck. There's so many things that I learned from my parents, and the biggest thing and what I can thank them for is that I knew I didn't want to do that. I knew there had to be a different way, and I didn't want to repeat that. But that meant I had to do a ton of personal development and seek out my own process and my own path. Now, for me, I am very, I'm very driven, I'm very action oriented. Operations is like my jam. I love, figuring out a problem and figuring out how to solve it and then change course. For me, being in a relationship with my husband, I found that I could really railroad him sometimes. Like, if he's not like, running alongside with me, I'll just be like, I'll go get it done myself. And then, but that didn't really work. I had to figure out how to work with that in the terms of a relationship, within terms of a family, and quite frankly, like, understand what it is that I truly wanted. And so the process we came up with is understanding what experiences, if you talk about happiness. Okay. And I call this the value based exercise in Money for Tomorrow. Get a sheet of paper out. The three big things that are going to make you happy are going to be like experiences you have, the growth or momentum you're creating in your own life, and then how you're giving back. And so we sit down and, if you guys could see on my wall behind me, I have that laid out. So we do it, with our family, and I do it for myself. My husband does it for himself. My daughter does it for herself. What experiences do we want to have? How do we want to grow? Is there a book or a class or a skill we want to learn? And then, like, how do we want to give back of our time, our money, and ourselves? And some of those things overlap, and then quite frankly, a lot of them don't. But it gives everybody a voice to be fulfilled within the relationship. Like, one thing that my husband wants to do, he wants to go to the Super Bowl. I have no desire, guys. I know it may sound crazy. I have no desire going there. He wants to go visit Fenway Park. I have no desire, but I know, like, if we have the opportunity, that is something that is going to fill his cup and help make him happy. We're going to make those things happen. And then when we're trying to find those big adventures that I talked about, what we look across those sheets and, figure out, like, is there something in common that we all want to go do? Like, we all want to go to Glacier National Park. That is on our bucket list for this summer.
Yeah, so you are enjoying life and you're playing it like a game. I bet you are just disgusting people right now, right? I mean, why are you enjoying life so much? You're playing it like it's a video game or a board game. But life
Well,
doesn't have to be hard, right? It can be exciting. It can be adventurous. It can be something that you bring your family around. And so we kind of teased about it a little bit early on, but what do you believe are some of the common misconceptions about wealth?
well, for one, I think people think wealth is just like how much dollars and how much net worth that you have in the bank. You know, um, and for me, I define wealth very differently. And I think having that definition of wealth, making sure you have it defined appropriately for you, is the epitome of understanding if you're going to win the wealth game. right? Because, every game has its own objective, its own rules, and its own strategies in order to win. And so if you don't have the right objective, you're not going to make it. If it's all about dollars in the bank, you're never going to be satisfied. You're always going to be chasing that next dollar. And so for me, the way I define wealth and the way I quite frankly learned from other people to define wealth is, to be able to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want. Now, for generational wealth, I need to be able to teach the next generation to do the same. It's not about passing the money on. I need to make sure that they can be good stewards and have those skills to recreate it for themselves. That's how I'm going to perpetuate generational wealth. Once I locked in on that, I was off the hook for creating, a $15 billion, real estate portfolio. Then it became about like, okay, what do I need cash flow wise coming in to do what I want, when I want, with who I want? For some people, that's going to be like $10,000, $15,000 a month. So other people, it's going to be $100,000 a month, right? But that's the thing, is it can be so personal. And so that's where the real fun gets to be had, is because now you understand where the end line is. You can define where you're starting, you know where the end line is, and you can always bump out the goal. You can continue building, bumping it out, but it gives you focus. It gives you a place to arrive to.
Absolutely. Do you find yourself getting comfortable?
Oh, I love that question. I am not one that is comfortable. If I'm, for me, I'm all about growth. And so I actually get very uncomfortable when I'm not learning and growing and taking the next step. And for me, that's actually kind of, been a little bit of a challenge for me. Over the past few years, it's been a journey. Let me put it that way, because, I originally was focused on that number. Like, um, I got us to, $20,000 a month in income. And then I was like, do we need 20? No, we need 25. Got us to 25. Is 25 okay? No, we need 30. And I was constantly moving that bar for us. And it was really when I landed on like, what is the emotion that I want to feel? And what dollar amount will help me feel that emotion? That's when I started understanding what fulfillment is. Now it allowed me to turn my focus away from just, scaling a portfolio that was all about money, to really stepping into these other areas of my life. Like, the past 2 years, I've been able to focus more on my health. My daughter's schooling from home. That's been such a blessing for us, since COVID. Because it allows us to travel more. So it allows me to free up other energy and other kind of, areas of life in order to develop them.
Yeah. And areas like writing your book as well.
That was not comfortable.
Is it something that's a bit of a challenge for you, or just something you don't like writing, or what part of it was a challenge for you?
It was, I tend to have a ready, fire, aim type of mentality.
Okay.
And so when I agreed to write the book, I didn't know what I didn't know. I thought writing the book was going to be the easy part, and it is not. And actually, sorry, I thought, getting the book, delivering the manuscript, I was done. And that actually, the work had just begun, right? When you write a book, especially when you're working with an editor, now you all of a sudden have, different phases of copywriting that are coming into play. And then you got the end editing. Then are the graphics working? Like, how does the title working? And all these other things that I just didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so it was a very uncomfortable process that it, quite frankly, allowed me to grow immensely over the course of the past 507 days in order to get this
Wow.
fruition.
Well, congratulations on the publishing your book. What type of legacy do you hope to leave?
One of financial capacity. That's really, helping people understand, including my own family, my own daughter, that, the financial education is out there. Everything that's, in Money for Tomorrow, you can find it in a book, in a presentation, in a blog post, but I wanted people to have a blueprint that they could actually execute on, that they knew that they had the right steps in the right order. And because when you have a blueprint, when you have a recipe, when you have a set of directions, and it removes cognitive dissonance. You're not in your own way. You just know you can execute. people are going to make their own mistakes, but my impact, that what I wanted to put out there into the world, is give people a blueprint to say, hey, here's a plan to create wealth. May I even indicate generational wealth for yourself? And you're going to figure out your own areas, your own obstacles. You're going to make your own mistakes. But here are the things that I did that you don't have to figure out. I got the puzzle pieces in order for you. And, you can now take it and move forward and, add to it and grow with it.
How much you believe is just mindset? So they have the playbook, they have it, but how much of it is still the belief or the mindset? And do you have any advice for people that are like, yeah, that's great for you, but, and then follow with whatever the reason is?
Well, I mean, I coach people all the time in this area, and I think people struggle with a couple of different things. One, they look at the plan, they go, oh, this is all I have to do. Certainly, there has to be something more to this. It has to be more complicated than this. So I have that type of mentality. People are like, oh, it has to be more complicated. There has to be more. I'm going to go figure that out. Right. Instead of just like, taking the plan that's right there in front of them. And then I think a lot of people get, little, off track with how they spend their time. They don't manage their time, in a way that puts themselves first. Right. I have a couple coaching clients right now. I had to sit down with one of them yesterday. We know what she needs to do in order to purchase her next property. Yeah, she was doing all these other things first. And I was like, wait a second, hold on. You're telling me the next step that you have to take is to talk to your lender to figure out how much you can afford. Like, why are we doing your business taxes? Like, they're not due until October. So really, queuing up things in the right order. People get distracted, and it's easier for people to keep appointments, responsibilities for other people, but when they try to do it for themselves, it almost feels like they're guilty, like, for spending time on themselves. So I really try to help people, like, understand that, no, this is you putting your oxygen mask on. Like, if you're on the plane, I just flew with my daughter over the weekend, and every stewardess was like, you put your oxygen mask off first and then her. And I'm like, yep, I got it. Like, we got to learn to, do that first for ourselves, especially whenever we're kind of tackling something that is new and uncomfortable and is making us stretch and develop.
Absolutely. So for our listeners that are listening, and how do they get in touch with you? How do they connect? How do they learn more about your work?
Yes, if you are intrigued about the book and you want to, pick it up, which I think every person should have this. This is the education we all should have gotten in high school about how to create wealth. You can go to biggerpockets.com/money for tomorrow. That's where you can pick up the book. You can find me at ashwealth.com, ashwealth.com. And let's have a conversation on how, we can get you to the next level.
Absolutely. If you want to learn a step-by-step way of not only building wealth, but generational wealth and freedom for yourself and your family, check out her book. I think it was an amazing book. Thank you so much for joining us today, Whitney. And again, that's Money for Tomorrow. Until next time, thank you for listening to the Success Is podcast. Well, thank you guys for watching today. Be sure to like and subscribe for more future episodes of Success Is podcast. If you have any suggestions, please comment below. Look forward to seeing you next time.